Now, about the book of Genesis, one thing which I guess not many people don't understand, because book of Genesis is first in the Bible, doesn't mean it is written first. It was actually written much later. God called the people of Israel. So God called the people of Israel to as people different than everybody else. Probably that's most important to understand. People of Israel were only people in whole planet Earth at that point who believed there is only one God. This is just seeing that fact would be sign that God revealed himself to them. Because naturally, I guess you all are from the community, you all know that by natural religion, man start to worship nature. You may see all the nations around the globe worshiping the sun. Incas, Aztecs, Egyptians, Greeks worship Helios, and then so God called people of Israel and revealed himself. So they were a nation who understand there is only one God. And it is amazing. I didn't plan actually to say that part. If you see, they didn't, at first when God called Abraham didn't understand. God didn't reveal to Abraham, there is no other gods. God revealed to Abraham, I am God stronger than all other gods. Same like you would speak to your children in the manner how your child can understand, on the level of understanding of the child. So God was in this way spoke to Abraham in the level in which Abraham could understand. Abraham was a man who lived among polytheists, believing in many gods. So he told him, okay, didn't deny there are other gods, but I am God stronger than other gods. And Abraham started to follow that. And the people of Israel formed this idea of monotheism, first worshiping only one God, and then believing in only one God. Most strangely about monotheism is that it was actually completely formed in exile. I cannot understand that, because you may see people of Israel didn't follow the rule of, didn't follow the covenant of their only one God, and they were sent into exile among the people who worship other gods. It would be so easy for them to say, oh, you see, other gods were stronger than our God, so we have to worship other gods. No, in exile, they discovered that God is only true God which exists is God of Israel. That's part which I never understand, but it's true. There, from exile, they truly believe there is only one God. But there in exile, they also wrote the book of Genesis. How did they wrote it? First, the historical part, book of Genesis has two parts. From chapter 12 to the end is historical part. Abraham was historical character, and everybody following Abraham were historical characters. What was before Abraham is more like a myth. Doesn't mean myth is not true. I'm looking for the quotation of C.S. Lewis about myth. He has, I cannot find it now, but he says the myth is like glimpse of truth falling through the human dreams. So in the myth, the truth is revealed in the way how much part of humanity can understand the truth. For that reason, there are many nations who are not connected and have myths which are very similar, because each one of them senses some sense of some eternal truth, which the best they can describe is in the mythical story as they describe it. But nobody thinks mythical story is completely true. So the first 12th chapter of Genesis is based on the myth, Babylonian myth of Enuma Elish. Probably many of you have heard about that, Enuma Elish. And it goes something like this Babylonian god Marduk kill Nemesis Tiamat. I think she's the goddess of the sea, something like that. And then cuts her body in two, making sky out of one half and earth out of the other. So that is basis of Babylonian story. This Babylonian myth speaks about Tiamat, Marduk killing Tiamat, cutting her body in two, and so on. Story is very strange for us. The Jewish people who came from that region and who would know that, almost surely know that story, they try to express the idea of how the world came to creation. But they have big problem. You can easily understand that the problem for everybody, every religion has to answer the problem of evil. If you have many gods, all other religions don't have that problem so big, because you have many gods and some gods are evil, and this is the source of evil. But in case of Israel, who believes there is only one God, and that God is good, you have to explain where the evil comes. So Book of Genesis tried to explain existence of evil, starting from the evil, that what existed was evil material. We'll see that in a moment. So what Book of Genesis does, it takes basically the Babylonian story and transform it into a completely new story, trying to explain the origin of the world, but explaining that, showing that God used evil material and brought goodness into the world. I guess most of you think that we all believe, I also believe, that God created everything from nothing. We call it creation ex nihilo. But the Book of Genesis doesn't start at that point. Jewish people do believe that from later on they have this belief, but in the Book of Genesis, this belief is not expressed. Okay, let me see. I will put two readings in chat. We will see that this is where 2nd Maccabees 7:28. That's most clear about the creation out of nothing. Can somebody read 2nd Maccabees? Okay.
Okay. Hey, Father, which Bible are you using? The Jerusalem or?
I'm using Jerusalem. Doesn't matter. You can use whatever Bible you want.
Okay. All right.
If it's
okay.
Catholic, because if you don't have Catholic Bible, you will not have Maccabees.
Don't have Maccabees.
Or wisdom.
Yeah.
All right. I implore you, my child, look at the earth and sky and everything in them, and consider how God made them out of what did not exist, and that human beings come into being in the same way.
That's good enough. You see, there is clearly expressed, and if we would go in Nehemiah, it's also expressed belief in creation out of nothing. So the Jewish people came eventually to that idea, but in the Book of Genesis, that's not so clear. Let's read in the beginning. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Now, that's and then it says, now the earth was formless void. So that would be, the earth was, that in English translation is not actually so visible in this translation. Let me hear some other translation.
Mine is, in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, was a formless wasteland.
Okay, so when God created, so it basically in original text implies before God created heaven and earth, earth was formless wasteland. Okay, that's basic idea. That's implied in the original text, in original language. And I like, you remember that I like how they call it Tohu Wabohu, this formless wasteland. So this formless wasteland is evil matter. It's everybody in the time, because as we read this material, we have first of all to understand it as people of that time would understand it. Okay, so when they heard the words Tohu Wabohu, this formless wasteland would be always understood as something evil, formless and without shape and base evil.
Why would that make it evil?
Because it was symbolic of evil in the ancient stories.
Okay.
It's not the in itself evil. It
It's
was
just
symbolic. Whenever they would discuss evil, they would bring the formless, the wasteland, and darkness.
Okay.
Next element is darkness. So that are the symbols of evil in this old story.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, and so that's how we lose that sense in English translation, but in original language, you would have sense that that earth existed as something worthless, not anything good, and God brings to goodness to this creation by creating first of all light, and then putting order. Let's read that.
Genesis 1.
So then what, start at verse 2?
Okay, so
Or
Dawn saying there was darkness over the deep. So deep is also the element of the evil. That's actually, okay, this deep is, I have somewhere notes, so let me, give me a second. This deep is, I cannot find the word now.
mine says abyss.
Yes, I'm looking for original word in Hebrew.
Oh.
Yeah.
This Hebrew word has connection with the word Tiamat, the linguistical connection with the word Tiamat, which is the goddess which Marduk killed. So there we also see the connection with this myth. Okay, so there are all these starting elements which are bad. Only element which doesn't symbolize evil is there was darkness over the deep with a divine, how you have translation, divine wind or breath.
Mine says mighty wind.
Mighty wind. Okay, sweeping over the waters. So that's the word ruach, which can be translated either breath or wind or spirit. Okay, so depending on understanding of the one who translates, somebody will translate it spirit, somebody will translate wind, somebody will translate breath. But basically, whenever you assign one of these translation, you basically assign one of your interpretations to this story. Okay, that's problem of translation. You have word which have some multiple meanings, and you pick up one word for translation, you pick up one interpretation of the story. Let's read first 3 days, just to see some pattern. Of course, you will all immediately tell me what is the pattern. Let's read it.
God said, "There will be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God divided light from darkness. God called light day, and darkness he called night. Evening came, and morning came, the first day. God said, "Let there be a vault to the middles of the water, to divide the waters in two." And so it was. God made the vault, and he divided the waters under the vault from the waters above the vault. God called the vault heaven. Evening came, morning came, the second day. God said, "Let the waters under heaven come together into a single mass, and let the dry land appear." And so it was. God called the dry land earth, and the mass of water seas. God said, that was good. God said, let the earth produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and fruit trees on earth, bearing fruit from the seed inside, and each corresponding to its own species. And so it was. The earth produced vegetation, the various kinds of seed-bearing plants, and the fruit trees from the seed inside, each corresponding to its own species. God saw that it was good. Evening came, morning came, the third day.
Did we see the pattern?
Yes,
So,
very much.
God created it and it was good.
okay, the pattern is first God said, then it was so, and God saw it was good, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
There is missing one part of the pattern in one day.
He was dividing.
In the second day, when he divided the waters above and the waters below, and there was nothing new good created. The waters were symbol of evil, we said. Waters were symbol of evil. And so now nothing good is created. So on the second day, God didn't say it was good. You see that?
Yes, correct.
And that will be corrected because on another day, there will be two-part creation. So God will two times see it is good. So everything will fall into its place.
So it's saying God creates, when he creates something, it's perfect. And it is what it is because it's perfect.
Yes, but here where he only said, in the first part of creation, God creates something good and separates good from evil. He separates darkness from light. This constant separation of happened in these days. Land from waters and so on. You see what happens?
Which is why we fear water so much, the power, because it's God's power, the power of the water, and we fear it.
Yes, because the water is symbol of that, because you cannot stand on water, you cannot control water, you cannot live on the water. You know,
Right.
we need water for life, but the living water which comes in, trickles in a little stream, that's healthy and that's helpful. The huge body of water which can take control over you is dangerous and can swallow you. That's symbol of that. One term which we have to learn now, which I love very much, as I learned this about book of Genesis, and we'll come to that term quite often, is form follows the content. What that means, that the text is shaped in the way to express what is the content of text. So because the content of text here speaks about bringing order, the shape of text is giving it such a pattern, very orderly pattern. Let me give you a better example of form follows the content. It is my favorite example of that is the book of C.S. Lewis. You remember that I love C.S. Lewis? Three famous books of space trilogy. One is Out of Silent Planet. That's where the main character is kidnapped and taken to the Mars. And second, in that second book in that trilogy is Peleandra, where he is sent to Venus. Now, both books are written by the same author. Both are speaking about life on another planet. What happens on Mars is very normal story, regular story. On Venus is the planet is described as a planet covered with water, with ocean, huge spaces of water. Everything goes slow. So the story also goes very slow with a long descriptions when you are driving, waiting to pass the ocean and so on. So that would be form follow the content. You see what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So we will see that many, many times in the book of Genesis. We will see that, for example, almost surely all of you can remember when Jacob wanted to marry Rachel. Remember that one?
Uh-huh.
And he worked for his uncle Laban for 7 years.
Right.
And it says, and 7 years seemed to him like one day. And the next phrase, they are going to get married. You see, because it seemed to him like one day, the author didn't spend time writing about that. You see what I mean? Didn't postpone to the next paragraph that we see about the wedding.
There was nothing more to be said.
Yes, yes. Oh, they could find the description, what he was doing in these 7 years, whatever, I don't know. But exactly to give us sense of how fast was that for him, immediately we go to the wedding.
Yeah, and if you fill in between, if you describe those 7 years in between, it takes away from the beginning of what it was all about,
Yes,
was
yes.
him wanting to marry Rachel. And so
Yes.
it would diminish the story of what the next 7 years was even about.
Yes, but I mean, the main thing is that this form follows the content that in Book of Genesis there. I was impressed when I discovered how, I guess, intentionally the author was following these lines. We find that also that when Joseph is in Egypt, then you will find that text contains several Egyptian words, although Joseph would not speak Egyptian, but they sprinkle several Egyptian words, like if you watch a movie about Nazi Germany, you would hear several German words like Befehl, Halt, Gesundheit, I don't know what. You understand? So also in the Genesis story, you will find sprinkled several Egyptian words there when Joseph is sold, when we see him in Egypt, and so on. So it's interesting to see how the author of Genesis was very careful to follow the content of the story by in the way how the story is shaped. You see what I mean? Okay, we'll see all these examples later on. A very important part is that probably already know, many of you know the answer to the question, but let's see how much you remember from the classes which we had before. You could notice that God created here light in the verse 3, but he created sun and moon in the verse 14. Where did light come from?
The angels.
God was the light.
God was the light, but the Jewish Midrash says that since something was created, God created angels and they reflected the glory of God.
Ah,
Correct. Got it.
good job, Mayor.
She was in my class.
Several times.
But that's Jewish Midrash saying that God created angels and they reflected the glory of God. We have several readings which show that actually the God is the source of light. I will copy these readings. We'll not do all. I will just put all of them in your chat box, and then we'll read only some. Let's do, I like probably not Wisdom of Solomon. I don't know why I entered there. Let's try with Isaiah.
1 John has one too about light.
Yes, 1 John. Okay, open 1 John 1 if you want. If somebody else can open Isaiah.
I like 1 John.
Go.
Okay.
Go for it.
This is what we have heard from him and are declaring to you. God is light, and there is no darkness in him at all. If we say we share in God's life while we are living in darkness, we are lying because we are not living the truth. But if we live in light as he is light, We have a share in one another's life, and the blood of Jesus, his son, cleanses us from all sin. The word of the Lord.
What's that? What's the chapter and verse for 1 John?
It is
1
1,
John 1:5.
verse 5.
You should have it, Tina. You should have all these readings in the chat
Yeah,
box.
I probably do, but I'm writing it on paper too.
So somebody has Isaiah.
I
Yeah,
have it.
Oh, you got it, Gloria? Okay.
Okay. No more will the sun give you daylight, nor will moonlight shine on you, but Yahweh will be the everlasting light. Your God will be your splendor. Your sun will set no more, nor will your moon wane, for Yahweh will be everlasting light, and your days of mourning will be over. Your people, all of them upright, will possess the country forever. The shoot I myself have planted, my handiwork for my own glory. The smallest will grow into thousands, the weakest one into a mighty nation. When the time is ripe, I, Yahweh, shall quickly bring it about. The word of the Lord.
Thanks.
Thanks be to God.
I like so much wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom
Okay.
Wisdom 7:25.
For wisdom is quicker to move than any motion. She is so pure. She permeates all things. She is a breath of the power of God, pure emanation of the glory of the Almighty. So nothing impure can find its way into her. For she is a reflection of the eternal light, untarnished mirror of God, active power, an image of his goodness.
You remember, we'll not open now, that in the new creation, New Jerusalem, there will be, the city will have no need or sun or moon to shine on it, because the glory of God will give its light. Remember that one?
Yes.
Nobody remembers?
It makes sense.
and so just connected then the image of divine mercy makes more sense, correct?
Right.
It's not just image, it's reality shining through that image. The light in transfiguration of Jesus Christ is light which comes from within him, where his divinity breaks through the veil of his body.
Yeah.
Yes.
The light of the saints, why many people, and there are people saying, actually, I heard somebody claiming that in the time of World War II, that he had picture of Padre Pio, and on the picture that his hands were glowing.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, I never saw the picture or something, but there were people claiming that to see actual light surrounding the saints, and that's why they're shown with aureola, with something light around their head, because this light is for us hardly noticeable, but it is there, the presence of God in them. Make sense?
I think there's a light glowing around your head, Father.
Yeah, but in this case is the different. One thing which we have to notice, the continuation of the pattern. If I try to say it without notes, I will mess it up. So the first day, God created light. In the second day, God separated the waters. Day one, we have, let me write here, light. Day 4 is sun and moon. And I will put, for some reason, I will put sun and moon and stars in the quotation mark. They are real sun and moon, but okay. Then day 2 are created waters, separated waters, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Day 5, fish and bird. So what was created in day 1 is kind of populated with the light, is populated with the waters are populated with fish and birds. You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like first you put the aquarium and then you put fish in the aquarium. Makes sense?
Yes.
Day 3 is land, and then what is in 6th day? Animals and birds, fish, I guess, and man. Correct.
Oh, yeah, man.
Okay. So there is also order, kind of a pattern in the way how the thing was created. One thing, let's read verse 9. I think it should be in the verse 9.
Then God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered into a single basin, so that the dry land may appear." And so it happened. The water under the sky was gathered into a basin, the dry land appeared. Oh, God called the dry land the earth, and the basin of the water he called the sea. God saw how
No.
good it was.
It was not sea.
Oh, mine says sea, not sea.
And the
It
mass
should
of water ceased.
it should be plural, seas.
Oh no, this
Yeah.
just says SEA.
Oh.
You see, translator missed the point. Okay, because he corrected what he think it was wrong, and exactly that's the reason why we were reading it, to find it is the plural, seas. Why seas? Because the Hebrew word for sea is yam, and that would be the name of the foreign god. So to avoid any mentioning of any other god in the story,
Oh.
He put
they
a
call it yamim. What is the plural?
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, because in this it's in quotation. The earth, like the earth is in quotation, and the sea is in quotation.
Yeah. Okay. And there is, I forgot to mention, let's go back for a second to the first day. God said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw it, the light was good, and God divided light from darkness. God called light day, and darkness he called night. Evening came, morning came, the first day. That's according to the rabbis. I mean, every time when I say Jewish rabbis, that might be 2 rabbis said this and 300 rabbis said opposite. Okay, I heard some Jewish rabbis say that. Okay, doesn't mean all of them agree on the same point. They say that this is the reason why Jewish day begins in evening. You know that. For them, the Shabbat begins on Friday night.
Sundown, right.
And some rabbis read it from this point. The evening came, morning came. That's the reason to explain why the day starts in evening. Let's go to creation of verse 14.
Then God said, "Let there be light in the dome in the sky, to separate day from night. Let them mark the fixed times, the days and the years, and to observe the luminaries of the dome in the sky, to shed light upon the earth." And so it happened. God made 2 great lights, the greater one to govern the day, the lesser one to govern the night, and he made the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky, and to shed light upon the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. God saw how good it was. Evening came and morning followed, the 4th day.
So here, what is not named? Sun and moon.
Oh.
We said before, practically every religion has the god of sun. And the Jewish word for sun was the name used for foreign gods. And I don't want to have that in that story. So it's not named. The Jewish word for moon is a name of foreign god. It's not named in that story. They say big light and small light. You will figure out what it is, but we don't name it here. It doesn't belong to that story. Even the Shabbat at the end of the story, when God created on the 7th day, doesn't say he created Shabbat. That's so important for the Jews, the word Shabbat. Yet they don't name it here because it's Shabbat is named after Saturn, which is another god. and so it would not be named even here. Let's see, creation of man. Verse, let's start from 26.
God said, "Let us make man in our own image, in the likeness of ourselves, and let them be masters of the fish of the sea, the birds of heaven, the cattle, all the wild animals, and all the creatures that creep along the ground." God created man in the image of himself. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them, saying to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Be masters of the fish of the sea, the birds of the heaven, and all the living creatures that move on earth." God also said, "Look, to you I give all the seed-bearing plants everywhere on the surface of the earth, and all the trees with seed-bearing fruit. This will be your food. And all the wild animals, all the birds of heaven, and all the living creatures that creep along the ground, I give all the foliage of the plants as their food." And so it was. God saw that he had made, and indeed it was very good. Evening came and morning came, the sixth day.
So I think here we have the problem. Problem is that taking the story of Babylonian creation and seeing that they did extra effort to erase any other possibility to think about any other God. Now, when God creates man, he says, "Let us make man in our image and likeness." Does make sense? Whole story was crafted to show there is only one God. And now the author, in this point, uses plural for God.
Yeah.
Isn't it because he's talking about the Trinity?
Well, the author's intention was not, maybe Holy Spirit, yes, smuggled that idea to him. I don't know how. That would actually, that's my interpretation, okay, to come to that point. Yes, I would say Holy Spirit smuggled idea of plural here. I don't know how he cheated him, but I will tell you other interpretations. Other interpretation is that God spoke to the angels. Well, that I think that would be Jewish interpretation. I don't like that because God's spec says in our likeness. We are not created in the image of angels, but the image of God.
Yeah.
So it would not.
But it does say, but Father, it says
Yes.
God created man in the image of himself.
Exactly.
So that would get rid of the angels. I mean,
Yeah. And in quotation before,
oh, but it
God
does
said,
say
"Let
of
us make man
ourselves.
in our own image,
Yeah,
the likeness of ourselves."
ourselves. That, yeah.
And then Western scholars try to explain it by saying that God uses a royal "we," like King Henry would say, "We have decided."
Yeah. Okay.
But the problem with that is we don't have such use of royal "we" anywhere else in the Bible. King David never used it, King Solomon never used it, and so on. That I don't see that as plausible explanation. For me, only reasonable explanation, yes, God's here we have a reflection of the Trinity. Doesn't matter how God cheated the author to smuggle the idea of plural here. That's my personal explanation.
What about if it was written, it was misinterpreted?
What do you mean was misinterpreted?
Well, you know, like when they went from Greek to Roman or
No, I mean,
when they were in the writings.
we have original writings in Hebrew.
Oh, you do. Okay.
Yeah, translation which you read is directly translated from Hebrew.
Oh.
It's getting too far beyond my pay scale here.
No, that are three solutions offered by everybody who ever thought about this passage, and many people were thinking. But I'm staying on this, that it, for me, most logical is that it speaks about Trinity. It doesn't matter how.
That makes the most sense.
Sure does.
it coincides with my belief
Yeah,
that us would be the Trinity. So for
Yeah.
me, that's how I would want to perceive it, in no other form but that, the Trinity.
yeah. For me, the story of the angels would be second variant, but doesn't
Yeah.
hold.